Hello, I'm Dr. Vail Garvin, President and CEO of the Central Bucks Chamber of Commerce. Welcome to Chamber Chat. And today we are interviewing Kevin Jameson. He is the president of the Dementia Society of America. Kevin, I am so happy to be here.
Thank
you for your time.
Thank you.
Please educate us on what dementia is. You've been involved with the organization. You founded the organization in what, 2013?
Right, 2013.
Yeah, over the past several weeks, I bet I've had 5 people come up to me with problems with dementia in their family or friends of their family.
Right.
Talk to us about what is dementia and how you started this wonderful society that means so much to so many.
Let's start with what is dementia?
Okay.
Right? A lot of people have that question.
They do.
I'm sure if we were to go out onto the sidewalk right now and pull somebody aside and say, what is dementia? They may not be able to answer. They may say, are you talking about Alzheimer's disease? Or they may say, I don't know, it has something to do with the brain. But the key to understanding dementia is that dementia is not a disease. So NOT underscore in bold, not a disease. Unfortunately, however, a lot of people refer to dementia as a disease.
Yeah, they do.
They say, we want to cure the disease of dementia. Also, on occasion, even some medical professionals, even the United States government will sometimes use the word dementia as a disease. But no, if you go further and you look deeper into it, you understand that dementia is not a disease. What it is, it's a syndrome. And as such, a syndrome is typically caused by one or more diseases, It typically has a progression of some kind that there's no reversing, stopping, or significantly modifying it, right? So there's no cure or therapy that has a meaningful difference. That's what is typically considered to be a syndrome. So dementia is just that. Dementia is caused by one or more diseases or disorders. Dementia is progressive in that it gets worse over time. And once you understand the relationship between dementia and the underlying diseases that may cause it, then you can start to kind of wrap your head around it, pun intended. So the idea is that Alzheimer's disease is oftentimes used interchangeably.
What's the difference?
So here's the issue. So think of it as flowers. Flowers is like the headline, but you have tulips and roses and daffodils, right? So you have different flowers. Think about cancer. Cancer's another good example. So the headline of cancer as a group, as a heading, is different than breast cancer, lung cancer, melanoma, leukemia, and so forth. So these underlying diseases that make up the world of cancer, so to speak, it's very similar to dementia. So Alzheimer's disease is one pathology, one disease that can or may cause dementia. I don't say that it does, because it doesn't always. The definition for dementia is that it's a cognitive impairment that is severe enough to inhibit or prohibit your activities of daily living.
And it's always progressive.
It is always progressive.
Oh, how about that?
There are times when somebody can have a cognitive impairment that doesn't progress. And people often label that as minor cognitive impairment, MCI. And that's something that a lot of people get diagnosed with. And the thing is, it never gets so bad that the person can't operate in their in their
Is
daily
there treatment
activities.
for that?
No, not necessarily. I mean, none of these things have meaningful therapeutic answers. They're obviously trying to come up with answers.
Right.
There are things that can positively impact your cognition, and there are things that can negatively impact your cognition. So, if somebody drinks a lot,
Right.
that negatively impacts your cognition, right?
And if they eat well,
Well, and what does
Does that
eating well
affect-
mean?
yeah, good question.
If they hit their head
Yeah.
falling off a ladder in a football game, if they have a car accident, all of these things can impact our brains as well, literally, right? So the idea is that there are a lot of various causes of the dementias that are out there. Alzheimer's gets a lot of the press, so to speak, mainly for one reason, in that Ronald Reagan was kind of the highest profile individual to be diagnosed with Alzheimer's disease back in the 80s. And Ronald Reagan actually signed some laws to, for the cure and for creating, research for Alzheimer's disease. Of course, that hasn't happened. We don't have a cure
Right.
for any of these, including Alzheimer's disease. But it really became a very well-known condition and disorder and disease. But there are so many other causes that if you only focus on Alzheimer's, you miss a lot of the other causes. And it's important to understand that those other causes, to the individual themselves, mean everything. So one thing that we do, being the Dementia Society,
Right.
is we don't focus solely on Alzheimer's disease. We focus on the dementia part, which is kind of almost the outward expression of what's going on pathologically in the brain. That's our inability to do our daily activities, transferring, toileting, executive function items. All of these things, if we can't do them, we need help doing them. And that's where caregiving comes in, both paid and non-paid care. And so we support a lot of caregivers because for every person living with dementia, there's typically 2 or 3 caregivers, if not more, around that person.
I'm just curious, is there training for these caregivers? And where
sure.
would they go to get it?
Lots of places. So yes, if you're a paid professional, right? If you work for a home care agency or you work for a nursing home or an assisted living community that has a dementia unit in it, yes, there are training programs for those individuals. If you are, a private citizen and you're just
Right.
trying to help your own family,
Right.
they're harder to find because people aren't just presenting them to you. But if people come to us, we will channel them into those programs.
That's good to know.
Right?
Okay.
Johns Hopkins, who we've worked with, they have a great caregiver training program. But there are a lot of different caregiver training programs, and we help kind of people connect to those programs. We don't put them on ourselves necessarily. We do lots of programs, lots of educational programs, but we're not doing, long-term caregiver training.
Got it.
That really has to be done over a long period of time, and there are people that are already doing it, so we don't need to do it. We can refer people to that. So in a nutshell, the thing to know, Vail, is that dementia is not a disease. That's number one. Number two, that there are many underlying diseases and disorders that cause dementia, and these are the pathological changes going on.
I'm curious, what does the Dementia Society do to help people and families? You mentioned programs. What kind of programmatic activity do you have to help people if they should need it?
So the Dementia Society was born out of my own personal experience, right? So my wife, in the early 2000s, she and I started to have marital difficulties. And, I encouraged her and us to go see a marriage counselor.
Good for you.
And we did. And the counselor pulled me aside one day, about a year into it, and said, you know, there's something else going on with Ginny, and I don't really know what it is, but you should have it checked out. So I didn't know really what to do with that information. It didn't make a lot of sense to me. You know, we'd been married 20 years at that point. You know, we had a great
You had a significant
relationship.
job as well.
I had a job as well, but one night we went out to dinner at a place called the Indian Spice Grill over in New Britain. And this is no longer there, but it was over across from Pitcatcher Lanes, if you remember Pitcatcher bowling lanes, right? And we walked in there, and I said hello to the hostess by name because we'd been there before. I remembered her name. And Ginny says, "How do you know her?" And I said, "From last time we were here." And she says, "I've never been here before."
Uh-oh. Yeah.
And it was at that point
It hit you.
that I knew we didn't have a marital difficulty as much as there was something going on with Jin's cognition. And that kind of started a several-year trajectory of searching for answers. And that's where people are today. When something happens that is significant from our cognition standpoint, we can pick up on that. People are forgetting where they are. People are forgetting how to get from A to B place. They forget a memory. They repeat themselves. Maybe they're falling a lot. Maybe they're getting angrier when it's not their normal. Maybe they're making accusations of others. Maybe they're seeing things, hallucinating. Well, all of those are signs, right? And clues. We call it the 22 clues. But those are clues to potential pathological changes that are going on in the brain. And it's different than a mental health issue. These are pathological changes to the brain tissue. And as you are confronted with these things, either in a friendship or a relationship or just in the community, you know, a lot of times people go, "I don't know what to do.
Right. That's
Where
what
do I
was
turn?
hearing. That's what I was hearing.
I don't know what's
Kevin.
going on. I don't know what's coming next. I don't know how to plan for it. I've never
Right.
been through this before." That's where the Dementia Society of America, in my opinion,
Comes in. Yep.
because they call 1-800-DEMENTIA, 1-800-DEMENTIA,
Got it
right?
right here.
It's kind of like 1-800-FLOWERS, but a little bit different, right? But 1-800-DEMENTIA, or they go online and they start to learn what dementia is and isn't, what they can do about it. It can help inform their family about what to do, about what may be coming next. And so we send out literally hundreds and thousands of packets of information to people, you know, regularly that are inquiring. They're drinking water through a fire hose, right? Their life is turned upside down. They're looking for answers. We actually have a program called Dementia Answers. And that's, you know, so that when they call us, we're going to answer their basic questions with basic answers. We're not doctors, right? We're not medical professionals. I'm a lay person in that regard. Although we have doctors and RNs, you know, on our board and, you know, in our advisory council, you know, from a volunteer standpoint, and the rest of us are going to answer questions that are simple and easy to understand and get points across. We're going to provide them information in writing. So we're going to send them materials. Like we have a booklet here, which is called The Big Umbrella. So we're going to send out materials like this all across the country, not just in the Delaware Valley, not just in Bucks County. You know, we're across the country. We're in Canada. We're also in Mexico. And so the issue is that we're trying to just help people where they are. Whatever point that they are in their life involving dementia, either at the beginning or at the end, we're going to be there to answer their basic questions. And that gives them power, right? Knowledge is power.
Yeah.
And they can make their lives better because of that. So that's what we're doing, right? We're making lives better for people.
You know, Kevin, I'm sitting here in awe of what you've done. Downtown Doylestown, Kevin, you did this you brought people together from all across the country. How did you do it?
You know what?
How did you do
I
it?
don't know. No, listen, it's a huge need, right? I didn't invent the
you
need.
stepped to the fore to help people.
Well, this is the reality. In the early and middle 2000s, as I looked around, there were Alzheimer's organizations, Lewy body organizations, frontotemporal organizations, CTE, chronic traumatic encephalopathy organizations. There's one here in Doylestown. There were all these kind of discrete disease organizations. But there wasn't a dementia society, a dementia association, a dementia foundation. None of those things
What made
existed.
you think to do that?
Because there was a need, right? People needed to know that there was so much more to it. And by getting that extra knowledge together, I started very humbly. My wife was still alive at the time. She was at Neshaminy Manor, and she had been in their dementia unit, and she'd been moved into skilled nursing care because her condition had changed significantly. And we were at the Homewood Suites, which is right next to Neshaminy Manor. And we put on a dinner, Dance Against Dementia.
Oh, I love that.
In September of 2013, invited our friends and family and put a sign out for the public. And we had about 80 to 90 people there.
That's a great turnout.
And we started.
Wow.
And, so we have not really changed our mission since that day. It's the same. We have 3 things we do. Education and awareness, which is kind of one thing, right? Life enrichment programming. So in addition to answering people's questions, sending them information, we also underwrite music, art, movement, and touch therapies.
Is that right?
Yeah. So across the country, if you're a nonprofit care community, you can apply for a grant from us to put a program on.
Love it.
And then the last part is recognition. So we recognize caregivers, we recognize innovators, and we recognize researchers. So a significant amount of money goes into research from
Very
us.
impressive.
So, and it's across the board. It's not just in Alzheimer's research, although that's important, but it's in Lewy body and frontotemporal and MCI and vascular and stroke. So we're putting money into a variety of research programs, not just a single thing.
I'm looking at this. It says 7 steps to take in the face of dementia. Have we covered them all? Or is there one left?
We don't have hours for this program.
I know,
Tom's a
but
great
it's very,
videographer.
Very interesting.
But we do have a limited amount of time.
Right.
But anybody can go online and watch the Dementia Action Plan, 7 Steps to Take in the Face of Dementia. They can go onto our YouTube channel. So they can go to YouTube and just enter Dementia Society, and they'll find us. Or they can go to Google or Bing and enter Dementia Society or Dementia Society of America and find us. And then they can watch that program. They can have us do the program for them. We will come in person to do the program. We'll do it virtually from our studio. There's any number of ways.
That studio is really impressive. Tell the business community about the opportunity they have in that room.
Well, right here in Doylestown, I've been in Doylestown since 1970. I love Doylestown. I went to CB West, went to Lenape, went to Bucks County Community College. I'm a local guy,
place.
Right?
Yeah.
In fact, my license plate says "Love Bucks," so that's how much.
One of those.
That's how much I love Bucks County. But I wanted us to have. We have this building. It's been a godsend for us to have. And I wanted to be able to give back to the local nonprofit community primarily, although we certainly work with for-profits too. But there are a lot of nonprofits who struggle, right? They struggle to find funding. They struggle to find constituents. They have a problem they're trying to solve, but it's hard to solve a lot of these problems. And so, what do you need? You need training videos. You need to be able to do virtual meetings, virtual presentations. So we created a broadcast studio at the start of the pandemic, and it has been phenomenal. And quite frankly, we will rent that out to other nonprofits. We have a boardroom, beautiful boardroom. We can rent that out to other
How much
nonprofits.
do you charge for renting out the video? That
Well,
is
right
very
now
impressive.
it's $100 for 4
Okay.
hours.
All right.
But they don't have to make any other investments.
Yeah.
You know, we have everything there: the cameras, the computers, dedicated IP.
And you teach people how to
We
work
teach them
that.
how to work it. It can be
Okay.
all done by one person. So if it's a one-person organization, that can still work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You mentioned street address.
That's another thing that we offer. We do have a pretty big property here.
Yeah.
So we have.
By the way, it's beautiful. Just
Thank you.
beautiful.
We have 2 street addresses. We have 188 North Main, and we have 32 Union Street.
Okay.
So we straddle those 2 streets. And so 32 Union is an address that any nonprofit can come to us with and
That's
say,
wonderful.
we would like to have a physical street address. And so we have a post office box. It's all approved by the postmaster in Doylestown. They'll get their mail, they'll get their packages if they wish,
gotcha.
all delivered to that address. Because a lot of times a nonprofit needs a physical street address. It's
Sure.
not enough
For their grant
to use a
writing.
P.O. box.
Right.
They don't want to use their home address because then it reveals their home
Yeah.
address to a lot of public entities and the public in general. So that address is available. You know, we charge for that, but it's worth it. You know, and if somebody needs that, it's valuable.
Kevin, I don't know how to say thank you other than say thank you on behalf of this whole community and nationwide community as far as that goes. You're doing God's work. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.